You know what else is freaking scary? Doing the same thing. Like that is freaking scary. Like knowing consciously that you have a problem and not doing a single thing about it. Like that, for me, that was the worst thing when I was quitting weed.
So were you always like a pretty happy, like upbeat kind of person before you started smoking?
To be honest, like in high school, I was one of the most extrovert person ever. I would say hello to everyone. I would know everyone's name. I would be like that guy, you know. I would just, but then I don't know. Then I went around the world and then I started smoking and then I started working. I think when I started really heavy working, like lots of working, that's when kind of my drive and just my openness and just like this whole like, like charisma, I guess, kind of stopped. And
Mm.
then weed came around and I became very antisocial and I had zero friends and I had non-relationship and I was watching way too much porn. And then, the life kind of just derailed into the another direction.
Was there a moment where you kind of felt your old self slipping away? 'Cause I know I sure did. I remember like it was almost like it was like I woke out of a dream.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
suddenly I was like this person with responsibilities and like why did I ever enjoy hanging out with friends? What?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of like not sad in a way, but it took me a while to process like that some of the traits that I had I never get back, you know. But not only that, like I don't know, in my 20s, my mantra was like let's get as much stuff as we can, let's try as much stuff as we can. But now in my 30s, I'm like, let's try to cut out as much stuff as we can. Let's try to peel as much as we can, you know? So yeah, in a way, yeah, it was hard. I mean, but in the other way, like now I understand that this is just life. Like, you learn and you progress and you go forward and you've got to realize, like, you'll not be like they say 30s and new 20s. It's bullshit. Like 30s and not new 20s. Like, if the stuff you haven't done in your 20s you might not get a chance to do in your 30s. Like some of the stuff I was doing in my 20s, or I could have done in my 20s, I won't be able to do it in my 30s because my brain is not the same. The situation
Mm,
is not the same. The times are not the same, you know? Like,
okay.
so we're constantly changing. But I think we should not be afraid of change because there's no way for us to grow spiritually and mentally and physically and economic, whatever you want to do to grow it, unless you change and unless you lose some of the stuff. Mm.
Yep, including weed and the people that do reach out on this channel that are like struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I believe that maybe that change is scary for them, which
Mm-hmm.
I completely understand that change of having to say goodbye to the weed, of that routine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when for you was like that moment where you're like, dude, I'm gonna change no matter what, whether the change is good or bad, I have to
Um,
change.
yeah, I mean, adding to that, you know what else is freaking scary? Doing the same thing. Like that is freaking scary. Like knowing consciously that you have a problem and not doing a single thing about it. Like that, for me, that was the worst thing when I was quitting weed because I woke up every morning. I knew what I said last night, and yet I would still go to my dealer and smoke. That's what really put me down because I did not have control of myself. Like I think that's more scary than not being able to change. But to answer your question, I was kind of always a big proponent of let's try things from since I was a young kid. Like I always like trying and going up to people and trying weird shit. And so I wasn't afraid of change, I guess.
Okay,
I mean, you gotta
that's
understand that
awesome.
I I went I went to Yellowstone when I was 19, 20, like just out of like completely random. And then I went back home and I went to England and I decided I'm gonna live there. So it was for me, it was like, I guess I don't know, I was used to like trying and failing, like,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, dude, and that's like the epitome of relapse and quitting weed. Like you gotta
Hmm.
fail a few times and
Hmm.
get that get that relapse under your belt. So, and each
Hmm.
time you learn. And so there's this one guy that's been reaching out a lot. Shout out, you know who you are. And he will like comment every few days on a video and be like, hey bro, I'm back at day 3 or 4. Like so he's definitely going through the relapse process. But each
Hmm.
time he's like fired up and you can tell he's like learning a little bit each time.
Hmm.
So I think he's gonna get it eventually. It's just like
Hmm.
this is that cycle of having to quit. Like I mean,
Yeah.
porn we talked about, for example, I tried to quit that so many times that so many bottles of lotion went through the process.
You guys use lotion?
You raw dogging it, bro.
Oh my god, that was
Oh,
funny.
man.